The curious case of the contradictory barber. First described by philosopher Bertrand Russell in the early 1900s, this paradox is a renowned example of how self-reference can create logical dilemmas. It serves as a vivid demonstration of the complications that arise in logical reasoning and set theory. To grasp this paradox, picture a quaint village with just one barber who abides by an unusual but strict rule. He shaves every man in the town who does not shave himself, and only those men. At first glance, the rule seems simple, but a puzzling question emerges. Does the barber shave himself? Let's examine the implications of this scenario. If the barber chooses to shave himself, then he falls into the group of men who do shave themselves, which by his rule, he must not shave. This creates a contradiction, as he cannot both shave and not shave himself. On the other hand, if he refrains from shaving himself, then by his rule, he qualifies to be shaved by the barber, which again means he must shave himself. This also leads to a contradiction. The core issue lies in the paradox's self-referential nature. It reveals the difficulty of defining sets or rules that include or exclude themselves. The barber, by adhering to his own guideline, causes a logical inconsistency. This is not just a quirky thought experiment. It exemplifies a broader category of self-referential paradoxes that challenge the soundness of logical and mathematical systems. Russell introduced this idea during a period when foundational efforts were being made to solidify mathematical logic. Paradoxes like this one revealed that certain intuitive but unrestricted approaches to set formation, where sets can refer to themselves, are inherently flawed. Beyond being an intellectual riddle, the Barber paradox has serious implications for constructing logical and mathematical systems. It urges us to rethink the way we define and organize formal structures. In this case, a simple rule about shaving leads us to reevaluate how definitions can cause contradictions when they apply to themselves. As we further explore this paradox, we uncover its significant influence on the evolution of logic and set theory. It prompted a reevaluation of foundational principles and inspired more rigorous frameworks to manage self-reference and avoid inconsistencies. Understanding the paradox offers deep insight into how mathematics has evolved to become more resilient against logical breakdowns. To appreciate the depth of this paradox, it's essential to consider both its philosophical and logical impact. It does more than expose a contradiction. It forces us to confront the difficulties of creating self-referential definitions within formal systems. The central issue is the challenge of crafting a rule or set that refers to itself without becoming contradictory. The barber scenario illustrates this perfectly. His membership in the group of men he shaves causes the contradiction. This illustrates a broader challenge in logic, dealing with definitions that include themselves. This difficulty is not unique to the Barber paradox. Russell's broader paradox, which questions whether the set of all sets that do not contain themselves contains itself, similarly highlights the pitfalls of naive set theory. Such theories allow the creation of sets without limitations, leading to contradictions. Moreover, the Barber paradox serves as a key example of self-reference in logic, where rules or statements point back to themselves. When this happens, it can create logical loops and inconsistencies unless carefully constrained. Managing self-reference in logic requires precise definitions and well-established boundaries to maintain consistency. The paradox is a warning sign, highlighting the risks of allowing self-reference in definitions. In response, thinkers have proposed several solutions. One prominent solution is Russell's own type theory, which categorizes sets into hierarchical levels. In this system, a set of a given type cannot include other sets of the same or higher type, eliminating self-referential loops. Another significant framework is Zermelo-Fraenkel's ZF set theory, which employs specific rules like the axiom of regularity, also called the axiom of foundation. This axiom ensures that no set can be a member of itself, effectively preventing paradoxes like the one posed by the barber. ZF theory offers a more reliable foundation for modern set theory by avoiding the contradictions that arise from unrestricted self-reference. These advancements represent the broader effort in mathematics to build more consistent logical systems. The discovery of such paradoxes helped shape the way modern logic and mathematics are structured, prompting reforms to secure their foundational stability. The paradox also resonates beyond mathematics. In philosophy, it stirs deeper questions about the structure of logic, truth, and language. It challenges us to define concepts with greater care to prevent logical inconsistencies, especially when dealing with definitions that refer to themselves. Philosophers have long explored how self-referential statements, like "this sentence is false," can generate contradictions. The Barber paradox is another clear-cut case where a seemingly harmless rule collapses under its own logic. It reveals how self-reference can obscure the meaning and reliability of statements. In cognitive science, the paradox demonstrates the mental complexity required to untangle such self-referential loops. Solving or even recognizing these kinds of paradoxes involves advanced reasoning, offering insights into how the human brain handles logical challenges. Studying how people confront such puzzles can shed light on the limits and capabilities of our cognitive processes. In education, the Barber paradox is a compelling teaching example. It's used to explain critical concepts in mathematical logic and reasoning. Educators use it to inspire analytical thinking and show why careful definitions matter in logical systems. It also helps students explore the historical journey of mathematics and the pivotal role paradoxes played in refining its foundations. Beyond the classroom, the paradox has also influenced literature and culture. Writers often use self-referential paradoxes as metaphors to explore identity, reality, and truth. The Barber paradox, like the liar paradox or Russell's paradox, is used in stories, films, and thought experiments to illustrate the perplexity of self-reference. In popular culture, these paradoxes are sometimes woven into narratives that explore complex or recursive realities. Think of movies or books with mind-bending timelines or characters that confront their own existence. These stories often draw on the same logical challenges highlighted by the Barber's dilemma, helping broader audiences engage with philosophical ideas in an entertaining way. In summary, while the Barber paradox might seem like a quirky logical puzzle, its influence spans far and wide. It's a cornerstone in the study of logical consistency and has left a profound impact on fields ranging from computer science and mathematics to education and philosophy. It serves as a stark reminder of how intricate formal reasoning can become, especially when self-reference enters the picture. And as we continue developing systems of logic and structure, the Barber paradox remains a key example of the care needed to build consistent, contradiction-free frameworks. It helps us better understand not only formal logic, but also the complexities of our own thinking. The puzzle of endless halves. Understanding the dichotomy paradox. Imagine preparing to run a race. Before you reach the finish line, you first need to cover half the total distance. Then, you're faced with covering half of what remains. Next, you must traverse half of that smaller portion, and this cycle continues indefinitely. This setup, proposed by the ancient Greek thinker Zeno, raises a fascinating dilemma. If there's always another half to go, how can you ever actually finish the race? Let's break it down. As you begin running, you reach the halfway point. Then you advance through half of the leftover distance. But every time you proceed, there's always a smaller segment remaining. This seemingly simple scenario creates an infinite sequence of movements. It makes one wonder, how is it possible to reach your goal when you're endlessly dividing the journey? Zeno's paradox presents this curious situation to challenge the notion of motion. How can a finite action, like finishing a run, require completing an infinite number of steps? Our day-to-day experience tells us we can move from place to place with ease, but this paradox seems to contradict that. Zeno, a disciple of the philosopher Parmenides, used this thought experiment to argue against the reality of change and movement. According to Parmenides, change is merely an illusion. By proposing this paradox, Zeno attempted to reveal logical inconsistencies in the concept of motion, suggesting that if infinite steps are necessary, then motion is not actually possible. This thought experiment forces us to rethink our understanding of how space and time function. If every action involves endless subdivisions, does that make movement fundamentally impossible? Though the paradox seems unsolvable, modern mathematics offers a clear explanation. The development of calculus by figures such as Isaac Newton and Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz provided tools to interpret infinite sequences. Through the concept of limits, calculus demonstrates that the sum of infinitely shrinking steps can still amount to a finite result. This shows that, despite the infinite division, the total distance can still be completed. This mathematical insight helps us reconcile the theoretical confusion with our real-world experience. While the idea of infinite steps seems like it should prevent progress, the steps become so small that, together, they do not stop movement. In practice, we reach our destinations all the time. Consider walking across a room. Technically, you could divide the distance into endlessly smaller parts. But in real life, you don't notice those divisions, you just walk and arrive. That's how the paradox is resolved in everyday terms. The infinite divisions are so minute that they don't hinder actual progress. This applies to tasks in daily life, too. Whether you're assembling furniture or writing a book, the process may involve many small steps. Each task might feel never-ending, but gradually, with persistence, you complete it. The same principle that resolves the paradox, incremental effort leading to a final result, also explains how we tackle complex challenges. The paradox also raises important questions about time and our perception of motion. Though Zeno suggests that infinite steps should block progress, we clearly experience smooth and continuous movement. Psychologically, long and complex tasks can feel overwhelming, but understanding that every small step contributes to the whole helps keep us going. Zeno's paradox has had a lasting impact across disciplines. It has influenced mathematics by motivating the formal study of infinite series and convergence. Philosophers continue to debate its implications for our understanding of reality. And in art and popular culture, it serves as a metaphor for complexity and paradox. Writers have drawn from the paradox to explore ideas about time and perception. Sci-fi stories about time travel or endless worlds echo the questions Zeno raised. Visual artists have also used the concept to portray infinity and motion, crafting images that challenge our sense of continuity and form. From a teaching standpoint, the dichotomy paradox is a powerful tool. It introduces students to the subtle concepts of infinity and mathematical reasoning while sparking deeper philosophical inquiry. Exploring this paradox encourages curiosity and critical thinking, pushing us to question what we assume to be obvious. To sum up, Zeno's dichotomy paradox is far more than an ancient curiosity. It opens a window into profound issues about how we understand motion, infinity, and existence itself. It has driven progress in science and mathematics, enriched philosophical discussion, and even inspired art and storytelling. Despite being centuries old, the paradox continues to provoke thought, reminding us of the tension between intuition and logic, and of the surprising power of ancient ideas to illuminate the modern world. The burden of too many choices. It's a surprising truth. Having a wider variety of options doesn't always translate into greater happiness. In fact, it can often lead to more dissatisfaction. This concept gained recognition thanks to psychologist Barry Schwartz and his influential book, The Paradox of Choice. Why more is less? Let's break down this phenomenon through a simple example. Picture yourself at an ice cream parlor offering 10 different flavors. At first, this might seem like a dream. More options mean more freedom, right? Yet, when confronted with such variety, you may find yourself feeling uneasy, hesitant, and unsure. This flood of possibilities can lead to stress, doubt, and even regret after you finally make a selection. According to Schwartz, this paradox arises due to a number of psychological influences. One key contributor is decision fatigue. When we face too many alternatives, the mental energy needed to assess each one becomes overwhelming. This can drain our cognitive resources, making it harder to choose wisely or confidently, and can even cause us to freeze up and avoid deciding altogether. Regret also plays a big role. With so many potential choices, we often second-guess ourselves, wondering if another option would have been better. This lingering doubt can overshadow the enjoyment of our final decision, making us less content with what we chose. Another factor is the pursuit of perfection. When faced with an abundance of choices, we might convince ourselves that the perfect one must be out there somewhere. But this hunt for the ideal can lead us to feel unsatisfied even with good options, because they fail to meet an unrealistic standard we've built in our minds. This paradox sheds light on the downside of choice overload, a condition where too many options harm our mental well-being. Research shows that when people are offered excessive choices, they often feel more stressed and less satisfied with what they ultimately decide. The mental burden of comparing and contrasting numerous alternatives can be draining and leave people feeling less happy overall. As we examine this concept more deeply, it's helpful to reflect on how the number of options we face in daily life, be it shopping, choosing a career, or navigating relationships, can shape our overall happiness and mental health. In the next section, we'll explore the psychological patterns that fuel the paradox and examine real-world examples of how too much choice affects satisfaction and decision-making. To really grasp why an overload of options can be unsettling, we need to look at some key psychological principles. One significant idea is the distinction between maximizers and satisficers. Maximizers are those who aim for the absolute best decision possible. They dig through every available choice, determined to find the most optimal result. On the other hand, satisficers are content once they find a solution that meets their needs, even if it's not the perfect one. Studies have shown that maximizers tend to experience more anxiety, more second-guessing, and more regret. Their drive for perfection can leave them perpetually wondering if they made the right choice, which lowers their satisfaction. Satisficers, by contrast, usually feel more at ease and pleased with their decisions. Then there's the issue of choice paralysis. When faced with too many alternatives, people may freeze up and avoid choosing altogether. This indecision is mentally taxing and can lead to stress, frustration, and less fulfillment from the final outcome, if a decision is even made at all. Self-doubt is another crucial element. Too many options can lead individuals to question their decisions. The fear that they might have overlooked a better choice or missed out can overshadow any joy they might feel from what they picked. Social comparison compounds this effect. With so many available options, people often start comparing their choices to others. If someone believes their friend made a better choice, they may feel discontent, even if their own decision was objectively good. This comparison culture can fuel regret and reduce the enjoyment of our own selections. Also at play is the opportunity cost, the idea of what you're giving up when you choose something else. The more options on the table, the more you're aware of what you didn't pick. This sense of loss can nag at you and reduce how satisfied you feel with your final choice. Next, we'll dive into how these effects play out in real-life situations like shopping, job hunting, and dating, and discuss what we can do to ease the negative impact of having too many options. The paradox of having too many choices isn't just theoretical. It shows up in our daily routines, from shopping trips to career paths to romantic decisions. But by studying these examples and learning practical strategies, we can navigate these situations more effectively. In consumer behavior, one classic example involves shopping. When buyers are faced with a huge range of products, they often feel less confident in their decisions. A famous study on jam revealed that customers were actually more likely to buy when they were shown fewer varieties. A wider selection led to more hesitation, more overthinking, and less satisfaction with their purchase. In career planning, the same issue arises. With an ever-expanding list of possible jobs and opportunities, many people feel overwhelmed by the pressure to pick the right path. This can lead to analysis paralysis, the inability to decide due to too much analysis. Even after choosing a job, people might wonder if another one would have been better, leading to dissatisfaction. In personal relationships, especially in the age of dating apps, the surplus of potential partners can make it harder to settle down. People might struggle with commitment, always wondering if there's someone better out there. This constant questioning can make relationships feel less fulfilling, even when they're going well. So how can we deal with the burden of too much choice? One helpful method is simplifying the decision-making process. This means narrowing down your options based on what really matters to you. By focusing on a few key priorities, you can make decisions faster and feel better about them. Limiting choices intentionally is another good approach. Instead of browsing every possible option, set boundaries. For instance, decide to consider only a few items when shopping. This reduces the mental load and often results in a more satisfying choice. Adopting a satisficing mindset can also help. Instead of obsessing over finding the best possible option, try choosing something that's simply good enough. Let go of the idea that there's a perfect choice waiting for you and embrace what works. Lastly, gratitude and acceptance can make a huge difference. When you focus on appreciating the positives of your decision and accept that no choice is flawless, you're more likely to feel at peace with your selection. Acknowledging that trade-offs are part of life can ease regret and improve your overall well-being. The phenomenon of too many choices provides valuable insights into how our minds handle decision-making. By understanding the hidden stress and dissatisfaction that can come with an abundance of options, we can start to approach decisions with more clarity and calm. Implementing strategies like simplifying choices, setting limits, adopting a satisficing mindset, and practicing gratitude can help us make better decisions and feel happier about them. Ultimately, knowing when less is more can lead to greater satisfaction in all areas of life.